A political earthquake rocks the nation of Germany. The so-called far right have risen to power and prominence not seen in decades. But what's taking so many by surprise is that we have the youngest voters to thank. We're going to see what happened over the weekend in Germany's latest elections, and we're going to see an astonishing trend among young voters who are more and more turning to the populist right like never before. Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you stay sane in these insane times. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Before we get into why liberal globalists are absolutely panicking in Germany right now, I want you to stop putting off what you know you need to do, and that's click on that link below and secure the deed to your home once and for all. I was shocked when I found out how easy it is to access the deed to my house, and not just access it, but change it. The deed to your home is the only document that proves you own it, but the problem is that the deeds to all our homes are now online, and criminals are free to find your deed, forge your signature, refile as the new owner of your home, take out tons of loans using your home's equity, and then they'll stick you with all the debt. But that's where our good friends over at Home Title Lock come in, gang. They are absolutely amazing. Home Title Lock gives you the peace of mind that the deed to your home is absolutely, completely protected 24/7. Click on that link below right now and use promo code TurleyTalks. And all you got to do is enter your address for your no-obligation home title scan to see if you've already been a victim of deed theft. That's a $100 value, totally, completely free with my promo code TurleyTalks. So don't wait for the worst to happen. Only regret you didn't do something about it when you could have. Do what I've done. Do what countless of patriots have done. Click on that link below right now and secure your home today. We saw nothing less than a political earthquake rock the continent of Europe over the weekend. Voters in the East German state of Thuringia went to the polls over the weekend and delivered a stunning victory for the Nationalist Populist Party known as the Alternative for Germany, the AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland. It was a stunning result. 1 in 3 voters voted for the AfD in a multi-party parliamentary election. The AfD got 34% of the vote in Thuringia. And to make it even sweeter, they came in a very close second in neighboring Saxony on the same day, just behind the Christian Democrats. That's Angela Merkel's old party. The AfD came in at just over 30% in Saxony. So 2 simultaneous elections over the weekend, both showed the nationalist populist right absolutely surging in East Germany. It was the first time the so-called far right won an election in Germany in the post-war era. And we saw this coming for some time now. We've been tracking with the AfD on this channel ever since they first broke into power in the national elections in Germany when they got about 13% of the vote back in 2017. That was the election when Angela Merkel won her 4th term, which of course turned out to be her last, thank God. But the AfD exploded on the scene with 13% of the vote in their very first national election. Now, 7 years later in these regional elections, the AfD has risen to the single most popular party in all of East Germany, particularly in Thuringia. And it's precisely because of messages like this. Here's AfD leader Alice Weidel articulating in no uncertain terms the AfD's position on immigration.
Die Grenzen müssen geschlossen werden. Illegale Migranten müssen ohne Ausnahme abgewiesen werden. Wer sich unberechtigt hier aufhält, muss abgeschoben werden. Kriminelle, Terroristen und Sozialbetrüger, die missbräuchlich eingebürgert wurden, müssen den deutschen Pass wieder abgeben, liebe Freunde. Das und nur das verstehen wir unter Remigration.
Now, if you're listening by way of our 20 million podcast, that was AfD leader Alice Weidel promising that if given power, the AfD would completely shut down Germany's borders, along with a mass deportation program in order to restore the integrity of Germany's historic traditional culture. Now, ironically, the ones who are really driving this mass turn to the right among East Germans, if you can believe it, are young people, young voters. Take a look at this. This graph shows that German Gen Zers are supporting the AfD, get this, 2 to 1 over the next most popular party. The AfD is getting more than double the support of any other party in Eastern Germany for voters under the age of 30. I mean, it's an absolutely stunning development of late, but it's actually par for the course of what we're seeing among the youth vote throughout Europe. Gen Z, those born between 1995 and 2012, Zoomers as they're often called, if you think it through, their whole conscious life has been one crisis after another. I mean, it starts with the GFC, right? The global financial crisis in 2008, then the debt crisis that followed and the austerity measures that were enacted, particularly among the Mediterranean nations, then the massive migration crisis in 2015, then, of course, the pandemic, and now a full-blown war in Europe. The economy has never fully recovered from the GFC. The economy has been a mess in Europe for years now, made all the worse by the Green parties and the greenflation that they've ushered in with all of their environmental measures and strictures. In fact, young voters decimated the Green Party, not just over the weekend, but also in their parliamentary elections back in June, the European parliamentary elections in June, where the youth vote once again voted overwhelmingly for the so-called far right. Again, buying power has significantly declined in the last several years. We've seen an increase in fuel costs, the implementation of various taxes. They've all had a horrific effect on daily life, most especially for young voters. They are feeling the pain the most. There's very little optimism among young voters. They don't see the future of Europe as something that's promising and flourishing. And as it turns out, young people are very, very concerned about unfettered immigration. And that, again, that's a constant throughout the continent as a whole, not just Germany. And while older voters remain very concerned and resistant towards the new right wing, particularly in Germany, young voters aren't even remotely as hesitant. So this is a political process we often talk about on this channel called de-alignment, where particularly young voters have rejected any sense of fidelity and loyalty to the traditional center-right, center-left parties. And so they are far more open to voting for alternatives to the establishment parties in a way that older voters who still remain quite loyal to the post-war establishment parties are not. And that means the so-called far right, the nationalist populist right parties such as the AfD are now considered to be a thoroughly plausible electoral choice for these young voters. Now, this election in East Germany is obviously a disaster for the national government in Berlin. Now, if you don't know, Germany is currently governed by a center-left coalition headed by Olaf Scholz. It's a very tenuous coalition made up of three parties. So you got the Social Democrats. That's the party Scholz belongs to. They're the so-called center-left establishment party. But you've also got the neoliberal Free Democrats, who did the worst of all parties in this past election in East Germany. And you've got the Greens. The Greens are actually part of a governing coalition in Germany, if you can believe it. And that explains why so many, particularly East Germans, have absolutely had it with this coalition that's imposed a very painful greenflation on the whole of the nation, but particularly on the industrial East. Now, as I alluded to, the tension within this coalition is with the FDP, the Free Democrat Party. They've been getting battered in the polls over the last couple of years. They've lost one state and local election after another since 2022, ever since they joined up with this coalition. And many local politicians have said that it's all the result of this partnership in Berlin. As long as they remain coalition partners with the federal government, they're going to end up politically extinct at some point. So the coalition is extremely unpopular with very low approval ratings. I mean, we're talking this Olaf Scholz coalition is getting about 20% support. 80% of Germany disapproves of it. That's especially the case with Olaf Scholz himself, the chancellor. His approval ratings are plummeting. And so there's tremendous pressure, particularly among the members of the Free Democratic Party, to walk away from the coalition and force early elections. However, as things stand, it does appear that the coalition, however tattered and tenuous, will stay together since, of course, once you've got power, it's very, very hard to give it up. But this is most likely their last hurrah when it comes to the center-left and their position of national power. The next national election in Germany is just a year away in September 2025, and polls show that the center-left is going to get absolutely crushed. In many respects, it's sort of the mirror opposite. The upcoming Germany election is the mirror opposite of the UK's recent election, where the center-right Tories got wiped out because they became so pathetically unpopular, and rightly so. So obviously we'll keep a close eye on how things develop in Germany over the next several months, but there is no question, as of what we saw over the weekend, Germany is yet the latest nation around the world to turn forcefully and deliberately to the political right. And given the worldwide trends that we see every day on this channel, particularly the youth vote moving to the right, we can be sure that what just happened in Germany will not be the last time we see a massive shift to the right in Europe.